Getting Water-Wise in the Federal Green Challenge, how federal facilities are saving money by saving water. We are really happy that you have been able to join us today. This should be a great webinar. My name is Andre Villasenor. I'm a Federal Green Challenge Coordinator with EPA in Southern California, and I am also serving as your moderator for today. Each Federal Green Challenge Web Academy presentation is designed to offer information and guidance on topics that help federal agencies reduce their environmental footprint. The areas presented during these webinars include one of 6 FGC target areas, which are electronics, energy, purchasing, transportation, waste/materials, and water. Today, we are featuring 3 Federal Green Challenge participants, 2 of whom are 2014 FGC awardees, and 1 of whom is an awardee in our WasteWise program. What is of note in these successes is the process each one used in their water efficiency endeavors, how and what they did to get the support for their projects, the visibility they generated, and of course the resulting successful outcomes. We are also delighted to have an EPA Region 9 speaker start us off by presenting you with our WaterSense program and green infrastructure tools. But first, a few logistics. This is a recorded session. We plan to post the webinar recording and presentations to the Federal Green Challenge Web Academy website after today's session. You can reach the page by going to epa.gov/FGC and then selecting the Federal Green Challenge webinars page from the right sidebar. If you're having any issues or difficulties seeing or hearing the presentation, let us know by typing your issue into the chat box and we'll assist you. You also may experience a slight delay on your screen as our presenters advance their slides. You'll be able to also ask questions by typing them into the chat box, and we plan to respond to 1 or 2 questions after each presenter. And if we are unable to get to your questions during this webinar, we can actually email you a response at a later time. Also, a short customer satisfaction survey will go to your email address at the end of this webinar, and we would very much appreciate you taking just a minute or 2 to respond to the survey so that we can improve the quality of our future webinars. Chris Newman from EPA Region 5 is providing us with the technical assistance and GoToWebinar today, so thank you very much, Chris. So let's get started. I am your first speaker actually today. I'm going to be presenting you with a very brief overview of the Federal Green Challenge in case this is your first time learning about the Federal Green Challenge. And then I'll give you a couple of overview slides on the challenges that we are facing with our limited water resources. So now for my presentation. So what is the Federal Green Challenge? The Federal Green Challenge challenges federal facilities to commit to a minimum 5% annual reduction in 2 of our 6 target areas, at least one of which is waste purchasing or electronics. And I mentioned previously that those 6 target areas are waste and materials, purchasing, electronics, transportation, energy, and water. And the beauty of the Federal Green Challenge is that it supports federal agencies in meeting their Executive Order 13514 requirements, federal leadership in environmental, energy, and economic performance, which President Obama signed in 2009. And the Federal Green Challenge also supports federal facilities and agencies in meeting their Executive Order 13423 requirements, strengthening federal environmental, energy, and transportation management Executive Order, which was signed by President Bush in 2007. So there are more than 400 participating facilities in the Federal Green Challenge, representing over 1.6 million federal employees. So quite a large family of agencies and facilities engaged in sustainability. As a whole, Federal Green Challenge participants are going way above and beyond Executive Orders 13514 and 13423 by achieving some notable environmental and economic results in all 6 target areas, as you can see in the slide here. They also saved, in 2013, $42 million in taxpayer dollars. So if you want to learn more about the Federal Green Challenge, or if you're already excited to join and become a participant, just go to epa.gov/FGC. It's a free partnership. It's open to all federal facilities. You can sign up anytime, and you will be implementing and exceeding your responsibilities under the 2 executive orders that I've mentioned. You'll be able to gain recognition with regional and national awards, and you'll have access to EPA's technical assistance, as well as a large network of federal facilities already on the sustainability path. So regarding our water resources, according to the Alliance for Water Efficiency, who recently spoke at EPA Region 9 headquarters, 40 states expect local, regional, and statewide water shortages over the next 10 years. And as communities grow, water shortages will become even more severe. Half of the U.S. population is concentrated in just 146 counties, almost all of which are located in those states anticipating water shortfalls. Communities across the country are starting to face challenges regarding water supply and a need to update aging water treatment and delivery systems, sometimes referred to as water infrastructure. Many of the states that have projected population growth increases also have higher per capita water use and can expect increased competition for water resources. With over 1/2 of the entire U.S. deemed as abnormally dry, according to the most recent U.S. Drought Monitor, today's speakers will show us how they are responding by implementing long-term, cost-effective solutions that go well beyond the water efficiency requirements of Executive Orders 13514 and 13423, which mandate improvements in potable water consumption, agency industrial landscaping, and agricultural water use, implementing water reuse, and engaging in sustainable stormwater management. So that is my overview for today on the water challenge we face. Our next speaker is Charlotte Eli of EPA Region 9 in San Francisco. Ms. Eli is a life scientist with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in Region 9. She works for the Sustainable Water Infrastructure Program, providing technical support and financial resources to communities to increase water and energy efficiency in water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. Charlotte holds a BA and BS in Environmental Studies and an MA in Geography. Take it away, Charlotte.
Thanks, Andre, and good morning, everyone. Just give me a second here as I bring up my presentation. Andre, can you confirm that it is showing up on the screen?
I am not seeing it yet.
This is Chris. It is up. It's
okay.
Probably still pushing out.
Great. All right. Well, I'm very happy to be here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all about tools and resources supporting green infrastructure, and also a little bit about the WaterSense program. As Andre mentioned, I work for the EPA Region 9 Sustainable Water Infrastructure Program, and he did a great job summarizing some of the challenges that are facing our water and wastewater systems today. Issues like water scarcity, climate change, increasing population, energy uncertainty, and an aging infrastructure. These are posing a lot of problems for small, medium, and large systems throughout the United States. These challenges are often complicated by being very interconnected. A great example of this is the water-energy nexus. There is a huge amount of water embedded in, huge amount of energy embedded in water infrastructure. It takes energy to extract, treat, move, distribute, and use water. It furthermore takes energy to collect, treat, and discharge wastewater. In the state of California, over 20% of our electricity and 30% of our natural gas is embedded in water infrastructure. Across the U.S., it's more than 2% of national energy consumption is embedded in water infrastructure, representing over 70 billion kilowatt hours. And so when we are facing interconnected challenges like these, it's important that we have interconnected solutions. And green infrastructure, also known as low-impact development, is a great example of an interconnected solution. Green infrastructure is broadly referred to as a suite of tools for mitigating mitigating sewer overflows, reducing energy use, and improving permit compliance by using natural or engineered systems to capture, cleanse, and reduce stormwater runoff. Has a lot of benefits, and these approaches to green infrastructure, low impact development can reduce heat island effect. They can improve water quality in streams and rivers. It can be used to recharge aquifers, reduce pollutants in stormwater, sequester carbon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and even reduce the water energy load of our water infrastructure. There was a great analysis that was done by the National Resource Defense Council a couple years ago that looked at the ability of low-impact development to meet our water needs. The analysis found that in just the urbanized areas of Southern California and limited portions of the San Francisco Bay Area, LAD could provide as much as 405,000 acre-feet of water by 2030. So when we're looking at how to respond to the drought, as Andre showed in that drought monitor slide, over 67% of the state of California is in severe drought or worse right now. LAD poses, I think, a really great way to help meet our water supply challenges. So how is EPA supporting and helping communities get LAD and green infrastructure projects off the ground? We have a really fantastic website, which is listed here on this slide, epa.gov/infrastructure/green infrastructure, that lists a number of resources to look at the possibility of using green infrastructure as opposed to conventional gray infrastructure. And the next few slides are going to review those resources. One type of resource that we provide a lot of information about is cost-benefit resources. And these are, there's two different types, really, of cost resources. There's cost analyses. And basically what those do is compare the cost of gray and green infrastructure. These are strictly an economic assessment. And EPA on our website provides a lot of examples of what other communities have done that you can look to. We also have provided a lot of examples of cost-benefit analyses, and these consider not just the economic differences between, say, a green and gray infrastructure approach, but the environmental, social, and public health outcomes of alternative management approaches. We've also identified a number of tools that can be used to start a discussion about the potential advantages of green infrastructure. These resources include talking points, assessment methodologies, and even a screening level calculator. That screening level calculator is not an EPA product, but something developed by the Center for Neighborhood Technologies, and it's called the Green Values National Stormwater Management Calculator, and that's what you're seeing here on the bottom left of the screen. And what it does is it allows users to quickly compare the performance, costs, and benefits of green infrastructure to conventional stormwater practices. It's designed to take you step by step through a process of determining the average precipitation at your site, choosing stormwater runoff volume reduction goals, defining the impervious area at your site, and then choosing from a range of green infrastructure best management practices to find the combination that meets the necessary runoff volume reduction goals in a cost-effective way. It's a great tool, and you can find it online. The other types of tools that we have collected a lot of information for are design and implementation resources. And again, here is the website for that particular page. These include design manuals, design tools, identifying typical design challenges, putting together implementation resources, operations and maintenance resources, and even resources for homeowners. Some of these design manuals from across the country are listed on the EPA website. And each of these manuals provides a detailed design guidelines tailored to local physical and regulatory landscapes. So each manual addresses planning and design approaches as well as these sort of structural stormwater controls. There's also a number of design tools that EPA has identified. These are both EPA tools as well as tools that have been put together by organizations like WERF, the Water Environment Research Foundation. And what they allow site designers to do is sort of model how they would comply with local stormwater regulations and or meeting voluntary performance standards. And I'll talk more about some of these tools later on. Our website also does a really good job looking at design challenges that are faced in particular areas and then providing advice on how to overcome some of these challenges. We actually have a page, how can I overcome the barriers to green infrastructure, which has a lot of great information too. As far as implementation resources go, it's sort of understood that many errors can be made in the implementation phase that can severely compromise the performance and public acceptance of well-designed green infrastructure. And so EPA has compiled a lot of lessons learned from previous construction mistakes, and you can access that information here. We've developed these operations and maintenance manuals and also provided manuals that other communities have developed across the country. And then, as I mentioned, we've produced and collected these guides for homeowners to help them install and maintain rain barrels and rain gardens. There are a lot of different modeling tools to support green infrastructure projects as well. And again, they are listed on the website, included there on this top of this slide. Basically, these models are all available online, and they're available to help you assess the cost and environmental outcomes associated with green infrastructure. So they can predict water quality and water quantity impacts, and they range from the simple models such as EPA's National Stormwater Calculator and USDA's iTreeView to more complex models that evaluate multiple parameters. And examples of those would be EPA's Stormwater Management Model, EPA's Sustain Model, and EPA's Fortrain Model. And in addition to those modeling tools, those cost-benefit analyses tools, those design and implementation resources, there is a whole lot of other things that you can find, all also great resources from policy guides to case studies to ongoing information about cutting-edge research, and then a great library that EPA has put together. So please check out that website, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I can either help answer it or put you in touch with someone else who can help you. Next, I wanted to dedicate a few minutes to talking about the WaterSense program. WaterSense is a partnership program sponsored by EPA that aims to transform the market for water-efficient products, services, and practices, and thereby protect water resources for future generations. To transform the market, EPA is working with manufacturers and retailers to increase the supply, quality, and range of water efficiency products available. At the same time, EPA is promoting an ethic of water efficiency to build demand for these products and services. Here is an example of the product categories that exist for the WaterSense program: flushing urinals, laboratory faucets, irrigation controllers, new homes, shower heads, tank-type toilets, and our newest labeled product, pre-rinse sprayers. We also work very closely with the Energy Star program to make sure that water factors are included in Energy Star specifications. So you'll notice, for example, that there is not a WaterSense label for dishwashers and washing machines, but there is an Energy Star label, and that does include water factors. WaterSense is also developing or considering developing specification for other products such as flush-emitter valve toilets, soil-based moisture irrigation controllers, and irrigation sprinklers. What distinguishes a WaterSense product from a conventional model is that if it receives the WaterSense label, it is at least 20% more efficient than a conventional model, and it's guaranteed to perform. And that guarantee is provided by sort of independent certifying bodies. So in addition to providing, this label, a way of distinguishing water-efficient products, WaterSense has also developed a lot of really great resources which are available to partners non-partners alike, but the some of the best resources, particularly the promotional resources, are only available to WaterSense partners. And as a federal agency, you are all free to sign up. If you sign up as a promotional partner, you get access to all those promotional materials, tools, campaigns, partner webinars, and newsletters, which can help you, work with, your employees or, your coworkers to instill this ethic of water efficiency. There are all those products that I listed, these different tools and technical specifications that allow you to understand, the benefit of these water-saving devices. And then most relevant to everyone on this webinar is our best management practices and manuals, which you can access at the link provided below. The WaterSense at Work document went out last year, and it's a compilation of best management practices for commercial and institutional facilities. It follows an environmental management systems approach, an EMS approach, to saving water. And there's different steps to help move your facility toward water savings. First step is make a commitment. Second step is assess your facility water use. Step 3, set and communicate goals, create an action plan, so forth and so on. It's really a very straightforward and tried and tested approach to realizing environmental goals. So within that WaterSense at Work document, 36 different best management practices, or BMPs, are reviewed. And in the document, each technology is discussed. We provide operation maintenance and user education tips, retrofit replacement options, and calculations for the potential water, energy, and dollar savings. We also include 7 case studies which outline successes in major BMP areas. To find out more about the WaterSense program, go to the website, visit us on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can direct any questions either to the WaterSense team or directly to me, ely.charlotte@epa.gov.
Thank you for the informative presentation, Charlotte. That was awesome. I am already saving money at home with my Energy Star washing machine as well as my WaterSense shower heads, and they're very effective. So now we're going to ask you a poll question.
Andre, the way the polls ended up being set up is they will come up at the end of the call.
Okay. Well, then for now we are going to move on to our second set of speakers, Dan Buckley and Dwayne Moats of the National Park Service's Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve in Idaho. Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve in Idaho earned the 2014 Federal Green Challenge Region 10 Award in the water target area for highest increased percentage of water saved over the previous year. Mr. Buckley has been the superintendent of Craters of the Moon for the past 3 years. He is responsible for overall management of the park, which includes water conservation, supply, and delivery. Mr. Moats has been the Chief of Facilities for Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve since 1999. He is the Environmental Program Manager for the park and has been working on climate change and sustainability, including managing water issues in this high desert park. Please welcome Dan and Dwayne.
Thank you, Andre, and welcome everybody. Glad you could sit in through this. As Andre was saying, Craters of the Moon is a high desert park. Topic of our presentation will be talking about our park water system and methods we've used to save water through the years here. Craters of the Moon is located in south central Idaho, about an hour and a half away from Sun Valley, 90 minutes from Idaho Falls, and right next door to the Idaho National Laboratory. It's a lava geologic park created in 1924, a weird and scenic landscape peculiar to itself. And if you've never been here, I invite you all to come up and see us sometime. Over the years, we started looking at our water consumption being in the desert, and we figured out were not sustainable, especially with drought situations. We were using 20 gallons a minute during our peak season back in the year 2000, and over the years, through a variety of measures we'll talk about today, we've been able to reduce our water consumption to about 5 gallons a minute during the peak season. One of the first things we did is we took a look at what we had, and all of our buildings here at Craters of the Moon were built in the late 1950s, early 60s, in what the Park Service calls Mission 66 style. And part of that style was a standard landscaping practice of lawns surrounding all the buildings. And you look at this quote by Wallace Stegner: to understand the West, you have to get over the color green. You have to quit association beauty with gardens and lawns. And so one of the first measures we did was go after our lawns. And now I'll turn it over to Dwayne.
Hello, I'm Dwayne Moats, Facility Manager at Craters of the Moon, and I will talk through most of the presentation, or what's left of it. So as Dan said, pretty much the headquarters area of the park was all built during the Mission 66 era, and along with the buildings, they put in lawns front, back, and on the sides of all of our administrative buildings and the employee housing area. So when we started talking about water conservation and how to reduce our water consumption, the obvious thing that we probably needed to tackle first was lawns. We figured that just irrigating lawns here was using about 1/3 of the water that we needed at the park. So as we started to think about this, it seemed like the right thing to do was to xeriscape part of our lawn area with native vegetation that wouldn't need any extra irrigation. And for some of the other areas, we decided to harden them or build some nice patio areas so that employees and people staying in the houses still had nice areas to hang out and enjoy themselves. So we hardened and built some nice patio areas for people to enjoy. So that's one of the first things we did here at the park. So after lawns, we decided to, what are some of the other things we could do? So we really tackled a bunch of water fixtures here in the park. So we did install things like low-flow shower heads, faucets that shut off automatically. We even went to waterless urinals inside of our men's restroom areas. So we began to change out pretty much all those fixtures that we possibly could. One of the other areas that we knew we were using a lot of water was in our campground. We have a campground where, it's a campground that has 51 units that people can actually drive into. And a lot of those drive-in camp spots had RVs in them. And even though we wanted to supply potable water to everybody down there, what we didn't want to do is fill up RV storage tanks. And a lot of RVers are just used to hooking up to whatever is available and filling up their tanks. So one of the things we did was install hydrants that eliminated the cross-connection problem, as well as all that extra water that was going into people's RV tanks. So along with that, we also started to implement a lot of water conservation messages. Our interpretation division talks about that with visitors. We talk about it with employees here at the park. We really try to stress how important that is and ask everybody to help us out with that. So those were kind of the things that we tackled here, but it still wasn't enough. Even with all those measures, we were still running short of water, and we still wanted to conserve more water. We had a really aged water system here. Most of it was over 50 years old. So beginning in about the year 2000, right up to this past year, we undertook a lot of repair and rehabilitation projects where we started to replace not only the delivery system, but all the plumbing fixtures associated with it. So We started off with a spring-fed system where we gathered springs up in the mountains, gathered that, and it was gravity-fed to the park. We decided to change to wells. When we changed to wells, we were able to eliminate about 2 miles of that water system, which helped us out a bunch. And the rest of the system we pretty much rebuilt and replaced, right from the new wells that we dug to the main line, to the distribution line, to water that comes right into the house and up to the fixtures. So we pretty much replaced that whole system because it was so old and we knew we had leaks along the way. We didn't have any accurate way to measure water or see where leaks may be occurring, so we installed meters, valves, you name it, all kinds of things to upgrade our old system. Once we did that, we were able to actually isolate sections of our system, and we found that we were still leaking water. One of the 2 infrastructure items that we had that we did not replace was a 50,000 gallon and 100,000 gallon concrete tank, or concrete tanks that are buried that we pump water into. So those tanks, through the years, we'd inspected them, we'd maintained them, and they seemed to be in really good condition. So we were surprised to learn that they were leaking water. So when we started to think about where they could leak water, we started to think that it must be the drains out of the bottom of the tank, because there's some short sections of pipe associated with that drain that we did not replace along with the rest of the pipe, just because it was hard to get to and we didn't think it was necessary because they were just drains. But since we thought we were leaking about 8,500 gallons a day out of one of the tanks, well, especially one of the tanks, the 100,000 gallon tank, we knew that we were leaking it somewhere. We suspected the drains. So we put together a project and replaced the drains. But unfortunately, that didn't seem to take care of the problem. So by process of elimination, we figured out that what we need to do is line the tanks. And how we figured that out really was that we knew we were still leaking water from the tanks. And as we were cleaning up after replacing that drain in the bottom of one of the tanks, we were washing down the interiors of the wall. And there's a baffle wall in the 100,000 gallon tank that's really just there for structural stability. It's about 10 inches thick. And as a person was washing down one side of that wall, the other side of the wall was actually getting wet. We couldn't figure that out because it had to travel through 10 inches of concrete and just a garden hose. We didn't understand how that was happening. So we started looking really close and found out that the water was coming through some really tiny holes all through the wall. And what those holes were from is from rusted out form ties. When they poured these concrete tanks, what they did is they formed the walls and poured them in place. And they held the form walls together with cable ties. So through the years, those cable ties have rotted out, probably aided because we chlorinate the water, and had actually rotted out those holes. So we did go ahead with our liner project, and as soon as we lined our tanks, we found out that we quit leaking water, and we were really able to go from, at the beginning of all this project, from about 20 gallons per minute to about 5 that were needed during peak season. And we really went from 15 to 5 with just repairing that leak. So it was a huge leak and a huge benefit to get that fixed, although we never suspected that was the problem. So we really reduced our water consumption here at the park in total by about 75%. In the year 2015, we hope to even see a little bit further reduction, just because last year we were fixing or making these repairs. We had to waste some water to clean up after that project and get everything ready for potable water again. So if everything goes well, in 2015 we'll even reduce a little bit more we hope to save about 4 million gallons of water in a year. And also what we hope is our aquifer will stabilize. During the peak season, often we had to pump out as much water as was coming into our aquifer. And sometimes we even had to stop the pumps and let the aquifer recharge before we could start up again. So since we're no longer need to pump 20 gallons a minute, we only pump 5, the aquifer seems to be stabilized. And of course we save electricity and repairs on devices along our potable water service lines just because we use them less, we need to pump less. So that really wraps up our presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please ask, and we'll try to get them answered.
That was fantastic, Dan and Joanne. Yes, definitely. If you have any questions for either Charlotte or Dan and Joanne or any other of the other presenters coming up, please type them into your chat box, and we will be able to address those questions. So that was a fantastic presentation. Remember to check leaks because that's a huge cause of water loss. And I, for one, after hearing that presentation, am really eager to visit the craters of the moon so that I can take one small step for humans and one giant leap for humankind. Now we move on to our third set of speakers, Abby Morris and Amy Deck of the gorgeous Presidio Trust in San Francisco, California. The Presidio Trust recently joined the Federal Green Challenge and also earned the 2013 and 2014 WasteWise Awards for Partner of the Year in the federal government category. Ms. Deck is a project manager for trails and philanthropic projects at the Presidio Trust. In this role, Amy focuses on the design, construction, and maintenance of the Presidio's trail network. She is a LEED accredited professional, that's leadership in energy and environmental design. Amy studied biological sciences and business at the University of the Pacific and also obtained her Master of Science in Environmental Management at the University of San Francisco. Ms. Morris is the Waste Reduction Specialist for the Presidio Trust in San Francisco. Abby Morris takes the lead role in collecting and analyzing waste diversion data for the Presidio Trust. She co-manages the Presidio's Yard Waste Compost program and also provides support in all recycling, waste management, salvage, and excess property disposal operations at the facility. Please welcome Abby and Amy.
Hi there, thank you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us. This is Amy Deck, and Abby's going to follow in a moment. Yeah, likewise, I'm very motivated by the first two and three speakers, and we're excited to share what we're doing here at the Presidio today. As the slide says, the Presidio is a new kind of national park. We're a really unique place and have a really unique agency that we work for, the Presidio Trust. For those of you who don't know where the Presidio of San Francisco is, we're on the very northwest tip of the San Francisco Peninsula. The Presidio has a long history. It was established in 1776 by the Juan Bautista de Anza party, and it was a military base for many, many years. It was under 3 different flags, the Spanish, Mexican, and United States, and it's also a National Historic Landmark District in addition to being a national park. In 1972, you can see on the screen, the Golden Gate National Recreation Area was created, which is over 80,000 acres stretching from Marin County down to San Mateo County. And the idea with that was that there was a stipulation that the Presidio would join the National Recreation Area if the Army were to leave. In 1994, the Army did leave, and in 1996, Congress created the Presidio Trust, which is the small federal agency that Abby and I work for. So we manage the Presidio as a national park. We are, one of the main reasons we're different than the National Park Service is that we were mandated to become financially self-sufficient. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. So here is where the Presidio is located at the southern end of the Golden Gate Bridge. We are a really amazing urban national park. We're about just under 1,500 acres. We have 433 historic buildings, almost 1,000 acres of open space, 300 acres of forests that were planted by the U.S. Army, 24 miles of trails, 330 native plant species. We have 7,000 people living and working here and over 200 tenant organizations. So it's really a thriving place today. I'm happy to report that we did reach that financial self-sufficiency in 2013, and the Presidio, it was a big test to see if it would work, if a national park could be managed in this way. And so we're very, very proud that we've been able to achieve that. As you can see, we have millions of visitors come here every day and are able to experience the Presidio in many different ways by all of the hard work that we've put into the Presidio. We've done this, of course, with really important partnerships over the years. The Presidio Trust manages 80% of the Presidio in the interior of the park, and the Park Service manages the coastal areas. So that's an image of Christie Field there, which is under Park Service management. And then our third arm is the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, which is our nonprofit partner that helps us manage the Presidio. So that's just a quick overview of the Presidio. We could go on and on about it, but we're going to dive into our actual topic. So I'm going to switch over to Abby, who's going to give you an overview of sustainability in the Presidio, and I will come back on and talk about a specific project.
Hello, this is Abby, and like Amy and Andre both said, I was very inspired by Dan and Dwayne's talk about Craters of the Moon National Monument, and so I'm really excited to be able to help present this morning. So Amy's really going to give the bulk of the presentation today, but I just wanted to jump in and give a really brief overview of sustainability initiatives in the Presidio, and kind of highlight the work that is going on in the Presidio already. And just very briefly, the sustainability initiatives in Presidio are kind of made up of several different programs, and one of which is the Waste Reduction Salvage Program, which handles all recycling, compost, waste management issues in the park, as well as contains an extensive building and architectural element salvage program, which really adds to our waste diversion data and really makes us a very unique, or it's a very unique program in the federal system. We also have an extensive green building program, which has completed 18 LEED projects, from new construction to more along the lines of building rehab. And to be honest, I don't know a lot about it, but if you have questions, Amy may be eligible to answer those questions for you. We also have a stellar integrated pest management program, which it's very multifaceted, and you can see one of the newest parts of the program is a herd of goats that you can see in the upper right-hand corner there that travel around and eat weeds to help reduce pesticide use in the Presidio. And finally, another big player in our waste diversion is that we have a medium-scale yard waste compost site in the Presidio. So we divert very close to 100% of the yard waste that's produced in the Presidio, in addition to the manure from the park police stables in the park. So through all of these initiatives, but largely the waste reduction and salvage and compost programs, we've been able to really excel in the waste diversion categories, and we've been a participant in the EPA WasteWise program for almost 15 years. And Andre really kind of suggested to us a couple years ago to join the Federal Green Challenge, and I think as the drought in California has really begun to become extremely obvious, and we need to, we would like to use the Federal Green Challenge as a way to advocate for changing the way the Presidio uses water, and also to highlight some of the really great stormwater management features that the Presidio already has, as well as advocate for more and better things going forward. So my role is pretty much just collecting some data, and I am not a water expert in any way, shape, or form, but there are plenty of water experts working here, and Amy is one of them. So. Oh yeah, and so here's the final little slide here. Just to give you guys a general overview, the Presidio is very unique. It has, compared to the rest of the city of San Francisco, it has a localized water source, and we actually have a water treatment plant. So most of the water that the Presidio uses comes out of Lobos Creek and is treated in the Presidio and used in the Presidio. And then during the summer or drought times, we purchase water from the city. About 20% of our water is purchased from the city on any given year. And we have a variety of stormwater management structures that fall into the category of green infrastructure, rain gardens, bioswales. We have a small rainwater harvesting operation, and a big component of green infrastructure, in my opinion, is our land conservation, habitat restoration going on around the park, in restoring wetlands that existed where the Presidio is now.
Thanks, Abby. So this is back to me, Amy. So I'm going to give you an example of a project that has been able to implement many of these green infrastructure initiatives. The Tennessee Hollow Watershed is this blue kind of T-bone shape on the map. That's the Presidio. And the Tennessee Hollow Watershed is about 270 acres, so it makes up a fifth of the Presidio. And as you are water professionals, you probably know that it's a really unique opportunity that we have an entire watershed under one federal agency, one landowner that is focused on maintaining the place as a national park. This watershed gives us really unique educational opportunities. It's kind of unprecedented to be able to take a group and walk from the headwaters and springs all the way down through the watershed to Crissy Field, and then see the water enter San Francisco Bay. The watershed is made up of 3 cleverly named tributaries, the western, central, and eastern. And the project I'm going to talk about today is the headwater of the central tributary. So it's that V shape on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. This is a picture of the project today. It's called Palin Spring. It's the only named spring in the park. Here's a watercolor of the area to give you an idea of the size of it. The Palin Spring is the red circle in the center there. It's about a 10-acre project, and you can see the other 3 tributaries there, and kind of a better example of what I was talking about, that you can do a hike from the upland areas where we have Inspiration Point and other scenic areas, and you can really begin to, as we're able to daylight portions of these creeks, follow the water from the uplands all the way down to San Francisco Bay. Palin has always been known as a very special place, not only for the native Ohlone, Spanish colonial, Mexican, and U.S. Army, and all of those people have left their different marks at Palin. I wanted to show you this map on the right-hand side. That's the original El Presidio fort that I mentioned earlier that was settled in 1776. And there's a blow-up on the left of a line leading from the fort to Palin. It says Palin Casitas de, or Casas, not Casitas de Briones. And so this was the original homestead for the Briones and Miramontes families. When officers and soldiers retired from the Presidio, there were only 2 places to live in the peninsula, the San Francisco area at the time, and that was the Fort or Mission Dolores. So, so Marcos Briones decided to create what we call the first suburb of San Francisco and build his retirement, and lots of families continued to live there over the years. The Army also treated it in a special way. It had a legend, and there was this, difficult to read, so I'll read it to you. From the spring in this clump of willow trees, the early Spanish garrison attained its water supply. According to Spanish legend, all maidens who drank from this spring during the full of the moon were assured of many children and eternal bliss. So another layer of water lesson at El Palin. This is just an interesting poster that I found from E. Clampus Vitus in 1947. They were bottling the water from El Palin and selling it. So given the long history of water usage at El Palin and the importance of the area, in 2011 we went through a major revitalization of the area. On the left-hand side you can see what the project looked like before and then after. Through this process we were able to daylight 300 feet of that central tributary. We created a series of wetland ponds you can see on the right-hand side of the project there, and create 7,000 square feet of wetlands. We removed over 2,300 cubic yards of fill. We removed 20,000 square feet of asphalt and converted this vehicular road into a pedestrian-only trail with shale from a local quarry. We built 135 linear feet of boardwalk and also restored historic cobble channel. So this is an image of where those wetland ponds were before the project began. The creek was in a pipe underneath that road, and we actually changed the design on this project. We had to do a lot of pre-investigative studies, one of which was archaeology investigations, and we discovered that in this area where we had planned to just have a creek run alongside the trail, we discovered this rich, dense wetland soil. This is a picture of the ponds under construction. And so we were able to modify the design to create wetlands where we believe, based on the soil conditions, there once were. So this is an image of the creek, or the wetland ponds and picnic area, and some historic cobble channels immediately after construction. And we make the joke, if you add water, they will come, and immediately at El Palin we had, in 2008, we had 27 different species of birds in the area, and there were 48 identified in 2012. The first time we had mallards and great blue herons and all sorts of hummingbirds, cedar waxwings, American robins, song sparrows. So it's a birder hotspot in San Francisco. It was an interesting project, and partly why we chose to talk about it today. It wasn't a typical habitat restoration project where we could ignore all of the other features at the site. We have a lot of cultural resources there that contribute to our status as a National Historic Landmark District. This is an image of a WPA Era, a Works Progress Administration project that was dilapidated on the left-hand side, and we restored it, as you can see on the right-hand side. Because it is a contributing feature, we had to really be very sensitive to the feature, and while it was falling apart, we mapped the exact elevation and alignment and had to rebuild it by hand. This is an image of, there are also cobble gutters located along each side of the road, and on the left-hand side you can see that the Army just had to bury it and put a sidewalk on top of it, and in this location we're really thrilled that we were able to reuse it in place. That's where we had planned for a swale, so we were able to reuse that material, and I'm very excited about that. There's also over 40,000 archaeological pieces that have been found since this project has been underway, and only about 1/5 of the project has been studied. This is a water tile basin that that's our archaeologist, Carrie Jones, there. And this was a really unique educational opportunity. As you can see, it's adjacent to one of the ponds, and it's also across the trail from where the foundation of that first house was located. And it helps tell the story of water. Our archaeologists are actually undecided on what this feature was actually used for. At first they thought it was a dairy box. Some think it was used as for laundry. It's really unclear, but we did discover that it fills up with groundwater, which was very interesting. So in most cases, we have to bury our archaeological finds in place to preserve them. So this was a really, really amazing opportunity that we're able to leave it exposed for our educational programming. For sustainable construction and methods, as I said, we found this dense, rich wetland soil, and we were able to reuse it in the Presidio, which was really great. We have additional benches in this project, and we were able to use Presidio Monterey cypress trees that were removed as part of our ongoing reforestation efforts in the Presidio. And the most relevant and exciting to this topic is that we were able to install a composting toilet. If you want to talk more about this and have questions, I'm happy to dive into how it works. But it's a double head trailhead model. That's a picture of it, and it's fully accessible. And you know, as I told you, there's a long history of water usage at El Palin, and we felt really dedicated to telling the story of our generation's use of water at the site, and our layer is speaking towards conservation and trying to save as much water as possible. So we're really happy to have this not only in this special location, but also that it's the first that we have in the park. As I said before, this is really the heart of the watershed and where we are focusing most of our outdoor education. So we do this through bird hikes, through family hikes. Since the project was revitalized in October 2011, we've had 255,000 visitors come to El Palin. We have a really robust volunteer program. There were 40,000 plants planted in the first year, and that was done all with volunteer efforts. We have about 500 volunteers a year at this project alone. And people love coming out to volunteer for archaeology as well. So this was when the project was under construction. So that's our presentation for you. We hope you also, just like the Craters of the Moon, we welcome you to come visit us in the Presidio. It's a gorgeous place, and that wraps it up for us. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Amy and Abby. You really covered a lot of ground, and in addition to the water conservation aspects, we learned a lot about the other things. The compostable toilets, I can attest, I used them when I visited there, and they smelled great and were very clean.
Great.
So welcome to the Federal Green Challenge, Presidio Trust, and congratulations once again. In today's webinar, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and enter those into our chat box as we now move on to our final speaker, Dave Macias, Energy Manager for the Federal Aviation Administration's Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma, 1/4 of it is covered by forest. It also has 50 state parks, as well as 6 national parks and 2 national forests. This participant earned the 2014 FGC Region 6 Award for Innovation by cutting their water use by 35% from 2012 to 2013. Mr. Macias is responsible for the development, implementation, and oversight of the Center's Energy and Water Conservation Program within the Office of Facility Management, Environment, Safety, and Health staff. He performs the principles, practices, and techniques of energy and water conservation strategies within the scope of the Center's Environmental Management System, otherwise known as ISO 14001. He also serves in the Federal Energy Management Program. And from 1986 to 2007, Dave served in the U.S. Navy Construction Battalion Seabee. He holds a BS in Electrical Engineering. Please welcome Dave Macias.
Well, thank you very much, and very pleased to be attending this webinar. and being a part of this. And thank you all for sharing your ideas and all the great ideas I'm learning. I'm still learning. So I moved here 2009 from San Diego, and don't ask why. But I'm here now at the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center and serving as the energy manager, and just wanted to show you and share a few of our ideas as well. So yes, the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center is about 3.5 million square feet of building space, and that's 130 buildings and covering about 1,100 acres. And our 130 buildings are both occupied and unoccupied, and we have about 65 buildings that is 5,000 square feet and greater and occupied. And we have about 6,300 employees, which are, we pretty much train the air traffic controllers here, the academy, also pilots and international students as well here at the FAA. And we are continually increasing in our footprint here, our square footage. Not as much, but we're building buildings and radar facilities to support the mission of the FAA and the National Airspace System. And this has become the most industrialized facility, DOT, just after Washington, D.C., and has the largest number of DOT employees here in one single location. So based on this, why are we doing this? Of course, the executive order requires federal agencies to conserve water, and everybody knows that, 2% annually through the end of 2020, or 26% by the end of fiscal year 2020. And my goal here is really to conserve water, energy as well, and it is a very important aspect of the Aeronautical Center's mission. And we are being supported here from, from the director of the FAA down to, facility management, and very supportive of our efforts. And we've identified, again, just like other facilities, we have created an energy council, performing planning and leadership assistance to ensure guidance for our policy for energy program execution and established, and we are also establishing and promoting our program. And really, the Energy Council has really helped us in promoting and managing our energy and water conservation. Without our Energy Council team, we wouldn't be able to do this. And it's composed mainly of our operation and maintenance staff, as well as environmental staff and our architects and engineers, all working together. And we've identified a few of this just with the shower heads that we have here for our fitness center and some of our facilities like the Civil Aeromedical Institute. We've replaced our shower heads from the 2.5 to the 1.5. And also we've been replacing valves for urinals and toilets into low flow. Basically, we've replaced some with low flow, but some are still a standard 1.6 gallon per flush. Here's one of our, what we've identified with single pass cooling systems. When we were doing an audit in one of our facilities, we found this compressor, 50 horsepower compressor, that was doing a single pass cooling, meaning it's using potable water to cool the compressor. And what happened here was this pipe was located on the, if you see the old compressor on the far right was a wall, and it was hiding on that wall, and we couldn't see it. However, we could hear it, and we found out that this compressor was being used 24/7. And he was using water to cool the compressor even during the evening hours when the compressor needed air, because this was used for the building as well as some of the machinery for the equipment in the building. So when the tank was, when the tank needed air, it needed to, build up pressure, and it would use the compressor, and water would be used to cool the compressor. So we, right away worked on a project to eliminate this single pass cooling system. And you might want to look at your facilities as well if you have any compressors or even cooling towers that have this type of system where they use water to cool a compressor or an equipment. Here's one of our cooling towers that we've also replaced or renovated. We had 3 of these major cooling towers that were still, really back in the, I believe this one here was built back in the 50s, 59. And it was using a just a constant speed fan, if you will, to cool the water, the chilled water. And we replaced that with a high efficiency cooling tower. And I'll show you that in the next photo. Another thing that we've identified too is this was really one of our major water conservation, and I think really the one that helped us conserve our 34% was most of our irrigation was being used just for aesthetics, where this one here was just on the back of a building and we were watering this like crazy. And so, brought this up to the Energy Council that why are we watering areas that don't really need to be watered, And with all the severe drought that we're having, facility management took it to where the initiative where we just completely shut off our irrigation for the entire center. We are not watering and just barely making it to where we're not killing the trees, but we're using the natural environment, and we were also considering wanting to see what our baseline was without using water for irrigation, because most of these buildings, the irrigation is tapped in from a building, and we don't really know what the water use is for our building unless we shut off the irrigation. And here's another best practice that we've identified was really to stress out to the employees, to the 6,300 employees that we have, was awareness. During Earth Day, we have a newsletter that make people aware, our employees, about water conservation here in Oklahoma. I mean, we are also getting drought conditions here, not as severe as the West, but we are getting drought conditions here now in Oklahoma. So we're trying to let everybody know about water conservation and how to report leaks immediately. Not just, if you see water leaking and just ignore it. If you see, small pot of water that's coming out of the ground, please let us know. And we've been trying to impose that on our employees. And we have like a trouble desk hotline where they can report water leaks. And so this is one of our measures that we've identified was awareness. And here's one of our conservation measures we used. First off, when we started this, here in Oklahoma, our water rates are not as high as probably other states. We're paying about $5.50 a K-gallon. So when we replace fixtures or urinals or toilets, it's not cost effective to just replace the whole fixture. So we went ahead and just used the conserva cap for 202 of our valves in our facility, and it reduced it from, I believe, a 2.5 to 1.6. So we've used this sort of a flash valve diaphragm to where you can conserve water. And also the sinks, 200 sink aerators we've replaced with just the aerator part from a 2.5 gallon per minute to a 1.0 gallon per minute, and which also helps conserve water. So from that compressor that I showed you on the previous slide, here's the new compressor. It's an air-cooled compressor, and it's you can see on the bottom it's an energy-efficient compressor, variable speed drive, and that's me on the left, and Mark McDaniel is the mechanical engineer on the right. And I worked with Mark on this to have it replaced immediately, so we can eliminate our potable water use on this compressor. And here's the cooling towers that we replaced. This is just one of them. We had 3 major buildings that we had this cooling tower replaced, and this is the new Marley variable speed drive high efficiency cooling tower, which helps conserve water. Here's a sort of a photo of our center. And as you can see, again, we have 130 buildings. 25 acres is the highlighted green. I hope you can all see that. That's what we were watering for our irrigation. And so with the Energy Council, with facility management support, we were able to shut off all our irrigation. And we were just barely using water just to, not stress out the landscape as much, but we are actually shutting off our water use because of our drought conditions. And here's I wanted to share this with the group. When we started our water conservation efforts with our irrigation, we were able to save about 24 million gallons. And last year, our water spiked up back in January. It went back up, and we were just wondering what happened. What equipment is using so much water? We were losing about 150,000 gallons a day. And so from January, I was looking at all the buildings, inspecting all the cooling towers, the bypass, all the storm drains, and trying to find where this water was coming from, and couldn't find it. So we finally hired a leak detection team, Rye Engineering from Tennessee, to come and do what they call probing the fire hydrants first for sort of a listening device to see if we had any major water leaks. And here's the system that they use. It is sort of it uses a acoustic correlator device, and they're able to pinpoint from one hydrant to the other if there are any leaks by sound. And here's the water leak that they found on August 7th. We hired them August 5th, and August 7th, we found the culprit right here. And I couldn't find it because the water wasn't coming out of the ground because it was going through the sewer. This is a sewer manhole, and this was a pipe that was connected to one of our buildings. And the water main, Oklahoma City water main, a 6-inch galvanized pipe, sheared on the bottom and hit the pipe that was on top of it because it's encased in concrete, and it was sort of doing a cross connect, if you will. And that's why the water wasn't coming out of the ground. It was going through the sewer, sanitary sewer, and we couldn't find it for a few months until we did this leak detection test. So that's about 150 to 200 gallons per minute of water that was going down, and that we were not meeting our target again. And so here's a photo of that water leak, and if you can see on the center photo, the gentleman right there was Oklahoma City Water Authority, and they're repairing the pipe. And on top of that is where the sanitary sewer pipe was clay tile, or made out of clay, and it just sheared that galvanized pipe and broke through the clay tile pipe, and it was just going through here on the sanitary sewer. And so we had it repaired with a PVC pipe, and if you can see the manhole is right there on the left. And that's why I walked through this manhole, but I couldn't even hear it. I couldn't hear the water because it was just, way deep, about 4 or 5 feet. So, but I'm just glad that we were able to find this leak through the leak detection team. And here's the results of that: 150,000 gallons per day, 4.5 million gallons per month. And another good thing with the leak detection that we implemented here or contracted out was one of our warehouse, which is TRW, Thomas Road Warehouse. We included that in our leak detection, and because it's out of our campus, so we don't really go there to monitor the building as much, but we do see the invoices or the bill. And we found that on the northeast corner, there's actually a 2 meters that feed the building, and half of it, the meter was running about a quarter gallon per minute. And we were wondering, so we went in and tried to look at, it's pretty much an open space, but there were some workstations with restrooms, and we found this ice machine that was continuously purging water down the drain. And, as small as it could be, about a quarter gallon per minute, That's estimated at 10,800 gallons per month. So we went ahead and went with the supervisor, says we need to replace this ice machine immediately. You know, so I unplugged the ice machine and it says that you need to replace this because it's, you know, you're blowing water down here about 10,800 gallons. So we were able to have that replaced with the leak detection. So Wright Engineering not only did that, we also worked on a study for our water tower. If you do have water towers, I suggest that you might want to have a leak detection, you know, implemented in on your facility, maybe once every 5 years, or even just do a baseline, because it helps find small leaks. And as you can see, you know, we also worked on our water tower, make sure that during the evenings and weekends that the water doesn't reside from the water tank because of small leaks. So we can see that through the flow test that they did for our center on the weekend. And also they did make some recommendations for us to, because we don't have meters in our buildings, and we just have a sort of a main meter for the whole facility and some deduct meters that go out of our center to feed other buildings, you know, that's not part of our campus. And we are trying to work on that to where we can put meters so we can identify the zone. If ever we have another major break, we can identify the zone where that water leak is coming from. And so here's one of our water conservation measures. This is an old landscape building, but we are working on developing a master landscape plan that's focusing, again, just like other facilities, with xeriscaping. And we're trying to, you know, use, even here in Oklahoma, drought-tolerant plants. We're trying to use recyclable materials for mulching and anything we can do just to use very minimal water. Because with our delta right now, we far exceeded our target for meeting the executive order requirements. However, we just want to use a small delta, maybe, you know, 2 million gallons or 5 million for the entire landscape, just to minimally, instead of using 24 million gallons, we just want to conserve our water to where we're not wasting it, and, you know, just making it look nice, but not to use turf everywhere. And just like the other craters of the moon, where you had that landscape area out in the desert, that's really good that you guys went out there and just, you know, used xeriscaping as well. And we also, again, promoted awareness to our employees during Earth Day, and just promoting energy and water conservation. So here's the impacts of our accomplishments. So with replacements of the valves, we've saved an estimated 1.8 million gallons. That's about $11,000 per year. Replacement of the sink aerators, 1.5 million gallons, about $7,900 per year. The compressor replacement was about 5.4 million gallons, also saving 57 megawatt hours of energy, and about $32,000 per year. The cooling towers, those 3 large cooling towers, probably saving about 2 million gallons per year, $12,240. And our entire irrigation, about 24 acres, 24 million gallons. We've tried to be conservative with it because we don't have meters in our building, but we're looking at 15 million gallons per year, $40,000 savings. And our total water reduction is 24 million gallons per year. Cost avoidance is about $103,000 per year. And that's just not 1 year. That's, if we maintain it, we're saving that taxpayers' money, $103,000 a year in water conservation efforts. So lessons learned: saving energy water is not a marathon. It's not a sprint. I know it's long term, based on the resources. Just like, you know, working with cooling towers, replacing compressors, it doesn't take overnight just to replace those. It has to go through design, architect design. It has to go through implementation and funding. And we're just very fortunate here that our facility manager, as well as our director, is very proactive with energy and water conservation. And that's why everyone is involved. Equal opportunity activity, tracking and documenting progress is a must. That's why we document, baseline it, and we try to develop sort of a roadmap, if you will, with our progress. And we start with the low-hanging fruit, of course, everybody does, and now it's more looking at more sort of the cost is going up when we do master landscape plan, so we have to see the cost of the design implementation versus our water savings, because again our water rates here are so low it just affects our payback. And don't hesitate to change directions if it makes sense. Challenges will come, reevaluate, plan, and execute. And that's all I have. If there are any questions, I think it will be after this presentation. Thank you very much for having me here.
And thank you, Dave. That was an awesome presentation. It's totally obvious that the FAA is flying towards sustainability. So now what we're going to do is in the remaining minutes, unless we have any questions from our webinar attendees, Chris is going to upload some poll questions.
Hi, Andre. This is Chris. Hi. We do have one question, and this one is to Dave. At MMAC, have you been able to apply the money saved to additional water-saving projects?
Yes, we are. We well, let me backtrack here. We're under a continuing resolution, so operational budget is very limited. But whatever we have available, our facility management is always prioritizing energy and water conservation measures. Yes, we do have funding that's available, and if we do have other measures to impose, just like the master landscape plan, we are working on that right now because of the savings.
Okay, great. Why don't we give it another second, Andre, to see if anyone else comes in with any other questions. The poll questions will be asked when people leave the webinar. We have another question coming in. This is the same person who asked the last question, commenting that this is an ongoing issue for waste prevention, energy, or water savings. You save money, but then you lose it from your budget. So,
very true.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris. So you said that the poll questions are going to be coming in after the conclusion of the webinar.
Right. They'll come in. They'll open up automatically when people close their webinar window.
Okay. Then I'm going to conclude by saying to all of our webinar attendees, thank you for participating in today's FGC Web Academy webinar. I hope you learned a lot, and hopefully you'll be able to take some of the information back with you to your facility so that you can implement some of these successes that our webinar speakers have implemented. Special thanks to our speakers, Charlotte Eli of EPA Region 9, Dan Buckley and Dwayne Motes of Creators of the Moon National Monument and Preserve, Amy Deck and Abby Morris of the Presidio Trust, and Dave Macias of the FAA's Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. And thanks once again to EPA Region 5's Chris Newman for all the technical support. To register for upcoming FGC webinars or to view this webinar as well as past webinars, just go to epa.gov/FGC. Please remember to give us feedback on today's session. It helps us to provide you with better webinars and assistance in the future. This webinar is now adjourned. Good day and goodbye.